Okay, 1.7. We're going to be, this is the second day. We're going to be factoring a binomial. Today in class we will be doing the opposite of the distributive property. In order to do the opposite of the distributive property, and this is called factoring, we will need to find the factors of each term and identify the greatest common factor between them. And there's a four-step process to do this. So let's get started with the first one, which is 6x plus 8. So we want to factor this. First thing is to identify the terms and numbers for each term. There are two terms. The 6x is one term and the 8 is another term. And the numbers for each term are 6 and 8. So we're going to write down 6 and we're going to write down 8. In step 2, we're going to find the greatest common factor between the two numbers. So factors are two numbers you multiply together to give you, in this case, 6. So 1 and 6 are factors. 2 and 3 are also factors. 2 times 3 gives you 6. Let's do the same thing for 8. We have 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. Now, what is the greatest common factor of 6 and 8? Well, the greatest common one is going to be 2. Okay, moving on to step 3. Write that number outside parentheses. So I write the 2, I put a left end parenthesis, and now in part 4, find the numbers that when multiplied, what is outside the parentheses gives the term needed. So what this means is 2 times what number gives me 6x? Well, 2 times 3x would give you 6x. 2 times what number gives you a positive 8? 2 times a positive 4 would give us 8. And so this is the factorization for 6x plus 8. Okay, let's go to the next one. 8x plus 12. We need to factor this. Identify the terms and the numbers for each term. There's two terms, 8x and 12. What are the numbers for each? 8 and 12. We just said that the factors for 8 are 1, 2, 4, and 8. And now the factors of 12, we have 1 and 12. We have 2 and 6, 3 and 4. Okay, what's the greatest common factor? That's going to be 4. So we write that down. That was step 3. Put in a left parenthesis. And then we ask ourselves, 4 times what number gives us 8x? 4 times 2x gives us 8x. 4 times what number gives you a positive 12? 4 times a positive 3 gives us a positive 12. There's your answer. Alright, and then for the last one, we have two terms again. 12x squared is the first term, and then negative 15x is the second one. The numbers with those terms, 12 and 15. From the second example, we know that the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. And then for 15, we have 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. What's the greatest common factor? It's going to be 3. So, in step 3, we write that number outside of our left parenthesis. and we're going to have to give ourselves a little bit of room, because notice in this one we have an x squared and an x also. So x squared is the same thing as saying x times x, and we know that x is just x. So we also want to factor out, so what do both of those have in common? They both have one x in common. So we're going to yank that out and put it outside of the left parenthesis. Alright, so what you're looking for is the smallest number of x's is what gets pulled out. So the smallest number of x's between x squared and x was x, so that gets yanked out inside the parenthesis. Alright, now we're ready to continue. 3x times what gives us a 12x squared? Well, 3 times 4 gives us 12, and then an x times x gives us x squared. 3x times what gives us a negative 15x? 3 times negative 5, or I should say 3x times a negative 5 would give us a negative 15x. And so there's the factorization. Okay, part B, the word problem of the day. You are looking to install carpeting in your bedroom. You know that the area of your bedroom is given by the expression A equals 4x plus 8. What's the greatest common factor between the two terms? Alright, so first term, second term. Write down the numbers for each. We have 4 and we have 8. Wrote it backwards. Okay, so the factors of 8, 1, 2, 4, and 8. The factors of 4, 1, 2, and 4. Alright, so what's the greatest common factor between the two of these? It's going to be 4. So write that down. Now, if the length of your bedroom is 4, what is the width? So we know that area, your bedroom is, we're assuming that your bedroom is rectangular or square, so we know that the area then would be length times width. And so we want to break up 4x plus 8. We want to write it as the product of two of its factors. So we're going to continue our steps from above. So we know that 4 is our greatest common factor. We're going to take that and write that outside the left parenthesis. I'm going to put the 4x plus 8 here. Okay, so 4 times what gives us 4? Well, that's just going to be 1. Alright, or 1x. So 4 times x gives us 4x. 4 times what gives us 8? Well, that's a positive 8, so 4 times a positive 2 would give us 8. So here is the factorization, and it's written as a product of factors, so 4 times x plus 2. Now, if your length, so here's your length, so your length is 4, what's your width? Well, your width is going to be x plus 2. Alright, for the next one, you are looking to install carpeting in your living room. You know that the area of your living room is given by the expression A equals 12x squared minus 20x. Let's find the greatest common factor between the two terms. Alright, so the numbers of the two terms, 12 and 20. So the factors of 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 12. The factors of 20, 1 times 20 is 20, and then we have 2, and we have 10, we have 4, and 5. Alright, what's the greatest common factor? It's going to be 4. So write that out. Alright, again we're going to assume that the living room is either a rectangle or a square, so the area then is going to equal length times width. And so what we need to do is we need to break up 12x squared minus 20x and write it as a product of two factors. We know that the greatest common factor is 4. Well, we're missing something with a. So yeah, the greatest common factor is actually going to be a 4x, because I forgot to pull out. So notice we have an x squared and an x. So what's the smallest number of x's? That x right there. So the greatest common factor between the two terms is 4x. So make sure you add that in. Alright. So that 4x gets written outside of the parentheses. So 4x times what gives us a 12x squared? Well, 4 times 3x gives us 12x squared. And then 4x times what gives us a negative 20x? Well, 4x times a negative 5 gives us a negative 20x. So our area equals 4x times 3x minus 5. Okay. Now, multiplication is commutative. So that means we can flip the order and the values remain the same. So instead of writing area equals length times width, I'm going to write area equals width times length. And why did I do this? Just to match it up, because it says that the length is 3x minus 5. So what's the width going to be? The width is going to equal 4x. Okay, so that concludes the 1.7 factoring a binomial.